Kale. Kale didn't just sprout as another leafy green, it rose like a king of the vegetable kingdom. Ancient farmers in the Mediterranean cultivated it long before it invaded modern smoothies. Packed with vitamins A, C, and K, plus calcium and iron, kale became the edible armor for your immune system. Its leaves, tough and bitter, were like nature's flex. No sugarcoating, no softness, just raw green power. In the Middle Ages, peasants grew it as a survival crop. During World War II, Britain pushed Dig for Victory campaigns, urging families to plant kale because it could thrive in cold soil and keep soldiers strong. Centuries later, it staged a comeback not on the battlefield, but on Instagram feeds. Chefs crowned it the superfood star, and suddenly kale chips replaced potato chips in the health aisles. But kale isn't just nutrition, it's reputation. Whoever eats it isn't just snacking, they're signaling discipline, health, and maybe a little smugness. Its legend isn't about sweetness or flavor, it's about being the rough, unyielding overlord of greens, sitting in every salad bowl like destiny itself. Avocados. Avocados are nature's premium upgrade. The ancient Aztecs called them ahuacatl, a word tied to strength and vitality. Warriors ate them before battles, not for taste, but for stamina that lasted. Modern science backs it up. Avocados loaded with monounsaturated fats, the kind that fuel your brain, cushion your cells, and keep your heart running like a champion. Their creamy texture isn't just indulgent, its fuel is disguised as luxury. The seed, a hidden vault of antioxidants. The flesh, packed with potassium, even more than bananas, balancing your muscles and nerves like an inner power grid. And the versatility is unmatched. Sliced on toast, whipped into guacamole, or blended into smoothies, avocados don't just fit in, they elevate everything around them. They're not just food, they're a cultural icon. From California brunches to global health trends, the avocado carries a reputation. Put one on a plate and it signals balance, wellness, and a touch of prestige. Just like golden armor turned warriors into legends, avocados turn meals into status symbols of health itself. Chia seeds. Chia seeds don't look like much. Small, gray, almost forgettable, but appearances lie. The Aztec warriors carried them as rations, calling them running food. A handful was enough to fuel days of marching and fighting. That's not legend, it's biochemistry. These seeds are dense with omega-3s, protein, and fiber, turning a spoonful into a nutritional armory. Drop them in water and they transform. Each seed swells, wrapping itself in a gel-like shield. That hydration trick slows digestion, keeping energy steady, no spikes, no crashes. Athletes today still use them like portable stamina packs. Science matches the story. They hold antioxidants, minerals, and plant power so compact it's like storing lightning in a pebble. But they're not just survival food, they've become modern prestige. Smoothie bowls, energy bars, puddings, the moment you see those black pearls shimmering, you know the dish is more than ordinary. Chia carries the same aura as mythic armor, tiny but legendary. A seed that whispers, strength doesn't always roar, sometimes it fits on a teaspoon. Quinoa. Quinoa wasn't grown to be ordinary. In the high peaks of the Andes, it was known as the mother grain. The Inca didn't just farm it, they worshipped it. Their emperors would sow the first seeds each year with golden tools, treating them less like food and more like a divine inheritance. Packed with all 9 essential amino acids, quinoa carries the complete profile of strength. It's not just carbs, it's fuel forged with balance. Each tiny bead shines with protein, fiber, and minerals iron, magnesium, zinc. A natural warrior's ration, it sustained civilizations at altitude where wheat and rice failed, proving itself as a grain that could rise where others fell short. Today, science crowns it a super grain, but the truth is, quinoa has worn that title for centuries, and it's not stuck in the past. Tossed in salads, cooked like rice, or puffed into snacks, quinoa doesn't just survive, it adapts. Every culture it touches, it transforms. That's its real power, not just nutrition, but evolution on a plate. Salmon. Salmon is the crowned monarch of the seas. Not just a fish on your plate, but a living river jewel powered by currents and instinct. Born in fresh water, it ventures into the vast ocean, only to swim thousands of miles back to its birthplace. That alone makes it feel like nature's quest wrapped in scales. But salmon carries more than a legendary journey. It carries omega-3s, the golden oil of life. These fatty acids don't just sit in your system. They build brains sharper, hearts stronger, and joints more fluid. Every civilization that touched salmon, whether the Vikings sailing cold waters or Pacific tribes weaving salmon into ceremonies, treated it like more than food. It was wisdom, energy, survival, all in one glowing fillet. And eating salmon isn't just nutrition, it's stepping into a tradition of endurance, strength, and renewal. Every bite echoes the rivers it conquered, the storms it survived, and the power it brings straight into your cells. Call it protein, call it omega-3, or call it the quiet royalty of the ocean. Either way, salmon reigns. Green tea. If kale is the green overlord, then green tea is its loyal warrior monk, disciplined, ancient, and endlessly sharp. This isn't just a drink, it's a tradition that's been forged for centuries across temples and tea houses. Samurai warriors drank it before battle, not for taste, but for focus. Each sip carried a calm intensity, like sharpening a blade before dawn. Packed with catechins, tiny plant-born guardians, green tea became liquid armor against fatigue, stress, and time itself. The Japanese tea ceremony wasn't just about pouring hot water, it was theater, a ritual that turned leaves into legacy, discipline into art. Even today, science bows to it. Antioxidants, metabolism boosters, brain enhancers, all locked inside a humble cup. But beyond the data, green tea is energy with elegance. It doesn't rush, it sustains. It doesn't flare, it flows. In history, monks called it a bridge between body and spirit. In modern kitchens, it's a quiet revolution, shaping diets and wellness trends across the globe. Drink it plain, swirl it into matcha, or sip it after a long day. Green tea whispers the same message. Resilience can taste simple. Every cup isn't refreshing, it's renewal. Turmeric. Turmeric is the golden alchemist. This root didn't just sit quietly in spice racks. For centuries, it's been painted across foreheads in rituals, stirred into healing brews, and even used to dye robes the color of sunlight. At its heart is curcumin, a compound so powerful that ancient healers believed it carried divine fire. Sprinkle it in food, and suddenly you weren't just seasoning, you were fortifying. Stomach aches, wounds, even the flu, turmeric was the frontline defense. In Ayurveda, it wasn't just medicine. It was sacred, a purifier, a protector, and a symbol of renewal. But its power wasn't only in health. Warriors rubbed it on their skin before battle, trusting the golden dust to shield them. Brides were covered in turmeric paste before weddings, glowing like living icons of prosperity. This was never just spice. It was armor of another kind, an inner shield. Modern science would later confirm what tradition always knew: anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, immune boosting. Basically a golden multi-tool packed into a humble root. So when turmeric glows in your curry, it's not just color, it's history, medicine, and myth, all swirling together in every bite. Garlic. Garlic has never been subtle. From ancient temples to modern kitchens, it's carried the weight of both medicine and myth. The Egyptians fed it to pyramid builders, believing it gave them strength and endurance. The Greeks armed their soldiers with it before battle. And in folklore, it became the ultimate shield, warding off not just sickness, but spirits, curses, and, of course, vampires. The reason behind the legend: sulfur compounds. Slice a clove and you release a lysine, a natural defender that fights bacteria, lowers blood pressure, and strengthens the heart. It's less a spice, more a biological weapon disguised as seasoning. Doctors praised it, but storytellers loved it first. In medieval Europe, cloves hung at doorways to guard against the night. The smell itself became a barrier, a signal that danger would not pass. Garlic is more than food, it's branding. A single bulb announces boldness, health, and protection. Stir it into a dish, and suddenly, the ordinary feels enchanted. It's not just flavor, it's a declaration. Strength lives here. Garlic proves that sometimes the most legendary weapons don't come from steel or sorcery. They grow quietly in the soil, waiting to be unleashed. Ginger. Ginger isn't just a root, it is fire buried in the earth. For centuries, it's been medicine, spice, and even currency so prized that ancient traders treated it like gold dust. Sailors carried it on voyages not as flavoring, but as protection, a shield against the endless waves of nausea that came with the sea. Slice it open and the aroma alone feels medicinal, sharp, and alive. Its compounds, gingerols, and shogols work like hidden warriors, calming the storm in your stomach, easing digestion, even reducing inflammation. Ancient Chinese and Indian texts didn't describe it as food, they described it as power, a gift that could balance the body's inner fires. Today, it still carries that aura. A cup of ginger tea can quiet a restless gut. A warm broth infused with it feels like armor against colds. In kitchens and apothecaries alike, ginger isn't just seasoning, it's legacy proof that sometimes the strongest remedies don't come from labs or legends, but from roots that have been trusted for thousands of years. Spinach. Not every superfood had to be wrapped in myth. Some got their legend from Saturday morning cartoons. Spinach didn't just grow in fields, it grew inside a cultural moment. One squeeze of the can and Popeye transformed from a wiry sailor into a bicep-fueled powerhouse. Kids bought it, parents cheered it, and spinach became the closest thing vegetables ever had to a PR miracle. The whole iron story, overblown. Early scientists misplaced a decimal in their research, making spinach look like it had 10 times more iron than it really did. Still, the myth stuck. Spinach became the leafy stand-in for raw strength, the edible shortcut to superhuman grit. Nutritionally, it does deliver packages with vitamin K, magnesium, and antioxidants. It helps blood, bones, and muscles do their job. But in culture, it did something bigger. It convinced generations that a vegetable could be a secret weapon. Even if you never opened a can, you knew the symbol. Spinach equals power. So spinach wasn't just food, it was branding. It turned a humble leaf into the mascot of muscle, a green legend written not in science but in stories. Coconut Dash. Coconut isn't just fruit, it's survival gear. For centuries, islanders didn't just snack on coconuts, they built lives around them. Crack it open and you get sweet water, basically nature's electrolyte drink, perfect for rehydration under a brutal sun. Scoop the flesh and you've got calories, fat, and fuel to keep going. But the coconut wasn't done. Its husk became rope. Its shell turned into bowls, armor, even makeshift helmets in some stories. Farmers used the leaves for roofing, weaving, fire fuel, an entire toolkit hanging off a tree. In wartime, soldiers drank coconut water straight from the shell when IV fluids ran short. That's how close it is to human plasma. And in modern kitchens, coconut oil runs the show cooking, skincare, even biofuel experiments. Coconut sugar, low glycemic flex. Coconut milk, vegan gold. Basically every part of it screams, use me. But here's the kicker. Coconuts also traveled oceans on their own. Their waterproof shells floated for weeks, washing up on distant shores ready to sprout. Not just food, colonizer of coastlines. So when you see a coconut, don't think pina colada, think Swiss Army knife in a hairy shell. Dark Chocolate Dash. Dark chocolate is a relic carved from the cacao bean that ancient civilizations treated like currency and worshipped like a gift from the gods. The Mayans called it food of the gods, and they weren't exaggerating. This wasn't sugar-coated indulgence, it was strength, focus, and endurance packed into a bitter, powerful bite. Modern science backs the myth. The flavonoids inside act like microscopic shields, guarding blood vessels, improving circulation, and sharpening the mind. A square of dark chocolate is less dessert, more strategy, a defense system that whispers through your taste buds, I've got you covered. And like all great armor, it carries prestige. A milk chocolate bar melts away fast, but dark chocolate endures bold, commanding, and layered. When you taste it, it's not about sweetness, it's about complexity, resilience, and power disguised as pleasure. This isn't just a treat, it's edible armor, a shield that melts slowly on your tongue, reminding you that sometimes protection doesn't clang like metal, it tastes like victory. Nuts? Nuts were survival packed into shells. Ancient armies marched with sacks of almonds and walnuts because they carried protein, fat, and minerals that didn't spoil. In Greek myth, Dionysus himself was said to gift the walnut tree to mortals, a symbol of fertility and strength. Crack one open and you weren't just eating, you were unlocking a vault. The shapes told their own story. Walnuts mirrored the human brain, and old healers claimed they boosted memory. Modern science? It agrees. Omega-3s, antioxidants, and compounds that fuel cognition. Almonds, meanwhile, carried prestige. Persian kings planted orchards of them as living treasures. Cashews, pistachios, hazelnuts. Every culture carved them into legend, but their real power wasn't only in nutrition, it was endurance. Through winters, through voyages, through wars, nuts were edible shields, small, tough, travel-proof. A handful was enough to push back fatigue, to whisper resilience when the body lagged. And they weren't just sustenance, they were symbols. In Rome, nuts were tossed at weddings as blessings of prosperity. In China, walnuts were rolled in palms as talismans of health. To hold them was to hold fortune itself. Sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes don't look flashy. No neon glow, no sharp edges, just lumps of orange hiding in dirt. But legends rarely announce themselves with glitter. This root packs the kind of quiet power that ancient warriors would have called divine rations. Buried under soil, it grows armored in fiber, fortified with vitamins, and dripping with natural sugars sweet enough to outlast famine. Civilizations have leaned on it when kingdoms collapsed, when harvests failed, when nothing else would grow. In Japan, they called it the lifesaver crop during wartime. In Africa, it became the shield against malnutrition, its orange flesh lighting up the body with vitamin A, protecting vision like a natural talisman against blindness. But sweet potatoes aren't just survival food, they're tricksters in disguise. Despite the sweetness, their low glycemic load whispers stability instead of chaos. Energy without the crash. Carbs that act like allies, not enemies. It's the underground hero's paradox, soft and sweet, yet structured like a warrior's meal. And just like mythic relics, they come in many forms: purple, white, orange, each one carrying its own hidden charm. Sweet potatoes weren't bred for luxury, they were born for endurance. Proof that sometimes the humblest roots keep entire civilizations standing. Broccoli. Let's be real, kids everywhere stage rebellions at dinner tables because of it. But power isn't always pretty. Broccoli is basically the detox tree of the vegetable world, packed with sulforaphane, a chemical so potent it flips on your body's natural cleanup crew. Think of it as your liver's personal hazmat suit, scrubbing out toxins, smoke damage, even helping neutralize carcinogens before they get cozy in your cells. Ancient Romans didn't exactly call it superfood, but they treated broccoli like green medicine, boiling it in wine and serving it before big feasts to prep the stomach for chaos. Fast forward, science backs it up. Sulforaphane activates enzymes that sweep junk out of your bloodstream and may even slow down cancer cell growth. That's not garnish, that's chemical warfare in your favor. But broccoli's legend doesn't stop at detox. It's loaded with vitamin C, vitamin K, and fiber, making it a triple threat: immune booster, bone protector, and gut regulator. Sure, it smells weird steaming in the pot, but that's sulfur stench. That's the smell of your body arming itself. Broccoli isn't a side dish, it's a fortress disguised as a tree. Matcha. Matcha is the monk who doesn't even need a sword. This isn't your average green tea. It's powdered leaves, shade-grown, hand-picked, stone-ground, and whisked into a frothy potion that looks like paint but acts like rocket fuel. Samurai in medieval Japan drank it before duels, not for hydration, for focus, for calm so sharp it cut deeper than steel. Matcha delivers caffeine, sure, but laced with L-theanine, a compound that smooths the jitters into razor clarity. No crashes, no chaos, just alert stillness, basically meditation in liquid form. Matcha isn't just a drink, it's ritual. Every bowl carries centuries of tea ceremonies where monks, warriors, and emperors sat down to the same swirl of green. In that froth, you're not just sipping antioxidants, you're borrowing discipline from generations. Matcha doesn't scream power the way kale flexes. It whispers it, a jade-colored cloak that turns chaos into precision, a quiet storm in a cup. Pomegranates. Pomegranates are the jewel-encrusted grenades of the food world. On the outside, just another round fruit with leathery skin. But crack it open, and suddenly boom, hundreds of ruby red seeds sparkle like treasure from a forgotten kingdom. In fact, ancient myths treated it exactly that way. In Greek lore, Persephone tasted just 6 pomegranate seeds, and that single bite chained her to the underworld for half the year. One fruit splitting seasons, dictating life and death cycles. That's not a snack. That's cosmic power packed into edible jewels. Medieval healers saw it as blood magic in fruit form. Red seeds mean vitality, energy, even resurrection. Modern science caught up and said, yeah, not just symbolism. Antioxidants in these little gems are so off the charts, they make blueberries look like background singers. Polyphenols, punicolagens, fancy names for compounds that basically scrub your arteries clean and keep your heart drumming like a war drum. Unlike an apple you can casually munch, pomegranates make you work for the reward. Every seed is a miniature burst of sweet tart explosion, like nature's candy with a PhD. Pomegranates aren't just fruit, they're edible mythology, dressed like treasure, fighting like medicine. Lentils. If kale is the crowned king, lentils are the foot soldiers that built empires. Tiny, earthy, and underestimated, these little discs fueled civilizations long before protein shakes were cool. Ancient Egyptians stored them in tombs. Roman armies marched with sacks of them. In India, they became the heartbeat of Tao, feeding millions daily. Lentils aren't flashy, no bright glow, no dragon scale skin, but they bring something rarer: endurance. Packed with plant protein, iron, and fiber, they turned humble villages into powerhouses. A bowl of lentil stew wasn't just food, it was strategy. You could fight, farm, and think about it. That's why historians call them one of the first domesticated crops. But their legend doesn't stop in history books. Today, lentils are still quiet warriors of nutrition. They fight cholesterol, keep your gut running like clockwork, and cost less than a cup of coffee. Unlike steak or chicken, they don't drain rivers or scorch forests. Lentils are the eco-friendly army, feeding millions without wrecking the battlefield of Earth. Not flashy, not loud, but try ignoring an army of billions. Lentils prove power doesn't always come in a crown. Sometimes it hides in a humble spoonful. Olive oil. Not every superfood looks like a superhero cape. Sometimes it's liquid. Olive oil wasn't just food for the ancient world. It was status, medicine, even divine approval bottled up. The Greeks didn't drizzle it. They bathed in it, fought with it, and crowned champions with it. Victors at the Olympic Games didn't just get fame. They got jars of olive oil, a prize worth more than silver. The Romans went further, calling it liquid gold, and they weren't exaggerating. This wasn't some pantry item. It was currency. A sign of civilization itself. Doctors from Hippocrates to Galen wrote recipes with olive oil as the main ingredient. Burns, wounds, digestion were their cure-all. But here's the mythic twist. Olive oil wasn't just about health or wealth. The olive tree itself was a gift from Athena, goddess of wisdom, during her duel with Poseidon for Athens. Poseidon gave the people a salty spring. Athena gave them the olive tree. Guess who won? The city still carries her name. So yeah, superfoods aren't just about eating healthy, they are about ancient powers hidden in everyday bites. Whether it is kale packed with iron, olive oil treasured as liquid gold, or berries guarding us with their sweetness, every food tells us how survival and strength have always lived on the plate. If you enjoyed this, stick around for the next one. And hey, subscribing would not hurt.